My name is Bill Poston. I've been asked to introduce our author this evening. Judging by some of the squealing welcomes I heard earlier, probably you could tell me a lot more about Robin than I could tell you. I've had the privilege and honor of working with her over the last several months as we planned for and launched the Soul Mender. I get an opportunity to meet a lot of people in the work that I do. Just week to week, I come in contact with dozens of new folks. But every once in a while, you meet somebody that you can pick out as pretty special. I had the great experience of working closely with Robin's sister, Alexis, and got to know her through that relationship. And I can say that both of them are just tremendous, tremendous human beings. I read the Soul Mender in draft form before it was edited and published, and I felt like not only was it entertaining and well written, but that it seemed like it was fun to write. And I write as well, and you know it's really awful writing. It's great to have written, but I felt like that Robin was probably having fun with the writing itself. So I hope that y'all will have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about the book, enjoy a reading, and pick up a copy and get ready to help us promote book 2, which is coming out January 1st. Yes. Fantastic. So welcome, Robin.
Thank you. Thank y'all for coming out. I know the weather is not great. It's been raining all day, so thank y'all for braving the weather. I know some of you guys have read this book, but I appreciate you being interested enough in it to come back and hear some more from it and about it. I want to thank Malvern for having me here, all the staff here for letting me have this venue, giving me a place to share my story with you guys. To Bill, Kinsey, Lauren, Anthony, thank y'all so much for helping me with all the marketing and everything that you guys do to get this book out and into the hands of other people every day. So thanks to all of you, and thanks to all of you for being here again. Before I start reading, I want to talk just a little bit about the book. So I started writing this about 7 years ago. I was still in college at the time, and I'd always thought, I want to write a book. What can I write about? And I was in a car at work. I worked for the City of College Station Parks and Recreation Department. And so I worked with all guys. And I was in a car with some of the guys, and they were talking about a South Park episode they'd seen about Parallel Universe. And as they sort of explained more about it to me, I thought, well, that could be kind of cool to tie into a save the world adventure kind of story for 20-somethings and kind of the borderline of young adult and adult. And so I took it and sort of ran with it. And that's what the Soul Mender, that's what this whole trilogy came from and what it's about. Some of what inspired it, I think we live in a world that's got a lot of hate, a lot of negativity, a lot of lack of empathy and understanding for other people in the world. And I wanted to write about why that is, where it comes from, how we can kind of change that, but in a very fictitious, fun adventure, things blow up, not didactic kind of way. And so that's what I did with the Soul Mender. I wanted to just look at the good and evil in everybody, the black and white being more gray in the world. But again, tell it in a way that was fun, not kind of lecturing you on how to be a good human being. In May, we released the Soul Mender. It's been doing great. We've had a lot of very positive feedback from both the public as well as the critics. Kirkus gave it a star review. We've had some other great things come up. So not only is it something like Bill said that was really fun to read, but I think or to write, but I think people have been enjoying reading it as well. I can announce we haven't made the public announcement yet, but we will be releasing the second book of the trilogy on January 1st. It will be called The Peacekeeper, and you will get to see a whole lot more of all of the characters you got to know in the Soul Mender, and give you a whole new batch of excitement and different places they go to. So hopefully, if some of you guys have read it, you're excited for the next round, and if not, we have copies here so you can get caught up and join us on January 1st when we go into that next realm of the story. So I'm going to start reading now, and I'm not starting at the very beginning, but fairly close, chapter 3, just to set a little bit of a stage for you. My main character is Riley Dale. She is a 22-year-old girl who is about to graduate from college, doesn't have a job, has sort of been lamenting her lack of a job, her lack of direction in the world. And she has just been with her best friend. They're about to take their last finals. Let's see, she has a crush on a guy named Gabe who rejects her. She hears voices, has crazy dreams, and is sort of in a strange place at this point. So I'm going to start in on chapter 3 and read some from that for you guys. Riley entered the classroom, sighing with relief that no one had yet claimed her seat on the right side of the room, 6th row, 3rd chair over, a position she tried for in every class. The first time she walked into a room to find that seat occupied, she debated asking the person to move, but felt ridiculous, so she took the chair directly behind in the 7th row. Hard as she tried to focus, all she could do was stare at the back of that red head in her seat, hoping the chair thief would fail the quiz. Riley felt silly afterward, but she made a point of showing up 10 minutes earlier from then on, and hadn't lost her seat since. There were some things she tended to be a little OCD about, and during finals it was important that everything be in order. Students filtered in, and the class began to echo with the sound of nervous chatter, flipping note cards, and tapping fingers. Riley smiled at the classmates who occupied the seats around her. One student sitting directly to her right looked like he might vomit. Poor guy. "Is this your last final?" she asked the nervous student, hoping to help him relax. It would be no good to her if he suddenly lost his morning waffles on her lap. "One more after this," he said. "I need to make an A on this test to pass the class. I shouldn't have skipped so many times." He smiled, apparently proud of his delinquency. "Yep, you're screwed. You've got this, just relax." The boy shrugged and began sifting through his notes, cramming as much last-minute information as possible. Riley peered over his shoulder, reading the dates and facts as he shuffled through them. "I know that, okay. I know that too. Yep, that's easy." She'd arrived earlier than usual because of the rain, and now she had to wait for what seemed like forever to finish up her college career. "Still 15 minutes? Is it extra hot in here today?" Riley scanned the room to see if other students were experiencing the same sudden discomfort. Sweat began beading off her forehead, and moisture pooled in her palms. The light became glaringly bright, and a sharp pain stabbed somewhere in the front of her brain. The anxious student beside her looked up, worried. "Hey, are you okay? You look pretty bad." Riley tried to stand and fell. "What's happening? Did I eat something bad? What have I done today? Breakfast, finals. Abby, Gabe. Gabe, that's not Gabe." Her eyes darted left and right, but she was no longer sitting in the classroom. Instead, she found herself standing in a storm. Grains of sand whipped across her face, burning her eyes. Riley took a step forward, but found no relief. "Oh God, it's happening again." The wind howled as she groped blindly ahead, trying to find something to grab onto. She glanced down and saw in horror that she was completely naked, the sand searing red marks into her soft flesh. Riley tried to cover herself, but quickly realized that she needed her hands to shield her eyes. Squinting into the tempest, she caught a glimpse of the figure she'd originally mistaken for Gabe. He was tall and muscled, with golden curls that flew in the wind like a nest of swarming yellow vipers. The stranger stood in front of the most bizarre tree Riley had ever seen. Ghostly silver branches twisted and swirled around each other, creating an impossible maze that stretched forever into the sky and in both directions as far as she could see. The crown of the tree glittered with sterling leaves and sapphire fruits that hung still, unaffected by the violent storm. The man took a step toward the tree, his armor creaking and moaning. A sword, forged of blinding steel that flickered with the flames of 1,000 small fires, hung by his side. He clearly didn't know she was there. "Hello!" She ran toward the light of the blade. "Help me! I need help!" She had to go to the man. There was no one else. If he wanted her dead, she couldn't hope to escape anyway. The armored man turned, startled. "How did you find me?" His hand flew to the hilt of his sword, and there was a sound of scraping metal as he drew the weapon from its scabbard. "How did you find this place?" "Please, I'm so scared. My eyes, please!" She cradled her nude body with her arms, tucking her head low into her chest. It was humiliating to stand in front of this man, naked and begging. "You cannot be here." He took a step toward her, sword pointed at her hunched figure. "I would have seen this coming." What is he talking about? "I think I'm dreaming," Riley shouted. "I fell asleep or passed out or something. I was in class and then here. I can't control it, it just happens. Please, I have to get out of here. Wake me up, do something." She glanced up and met the piercing stare of the lone warrior. He had Gabe's eyes. She took a step backward, away from the fiery blade pointed at her throat. Please, she whimpered again, shrinking further into herself. The man continued to stare, a mixture of determination and confusion etched on his stone-like face. I will send you back this one time, but you must forget what you have seen and never attempt to return. Yes, okay, anything, just please. The howling of the wind grew to a roar, and each blast of sand felt like razors tearing small pieces of flesh from her body. Riley collapsed onto the ground, writhing in pain. The man stepped closer until he stood towering over her crumpled figure. He hoisted his weapon high into the air. He's going to kill me? She raised her arms to shield her head and caught a glimpse of the strange tree, still unscarred by the surrounding gale. Firelight from the sword danced off the tree's gilded leaves. It would have been a beautiful sight under different circumstances. You are a danger to us all, the man declared. Your presence here threatens what's left of the balance of humanity. He plunged the sword downward, and Riley's world went still and black. Someone screamed. The harsh noise reverberated through her aching skull. Make it stop. It stopped. Light broke through the darkness, and fuzzy shapes moved around the perimeter of her vision. Riley felt her chest rise and fall with labored breaths. Her entire body ached and quivered as if someone had scrubbed her clean with glass shards. She struggled to sit up and felt hands gently push her to the floor. Miss Dale? The voice was soft and gentle. Can you hear me? Riley felt herself nod. Her vision cleared. Faceless forms suddenly had features. She was lying on her back in the History of the World Wars classroom. The voice she'd heard was her professor's. Oh, thank God, Dr. Wright said with a sigh. Riley, we've called for an ambulance. You're going to be okay. She winced. No, I'm fine. I just need air. But you fainted. You've been out for a good 5 minutes. That's all. The vision, if that's what you want to call it, was coming back to her. The sand, the tree, the strange man with the sword. Forget and never attempt to return. It was an odd request, as she'd never meant to go there in the first place. But where was there anyway, and who was he? This was the first time someone had spoken directly to her in a dream, and it added an entirely new level of terror. Please, I don't need an ambulance. I need rest. It's just stress from finals. Riley looked up at Dr. Wright, feigning confidence. He studied her for a moment, obviously wanting to argue, but held back. I strongly disagree. However, the decision is yours. Please get someone to drive you home, and be ready to take your final tomorrow. He stood and cleared his throat. Everyone put your things away. We're pressed for time and need to get started. Riley didn't want to stick around for him to change his mind. I'll be here tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. Wright. She hurried from the room and burst through the doors of the building into the open air. Rain pelted her face as she turned it skyward. Cool water soaked through her clothes, and in minutes she groped gratefully at the sodden garments. At least I have my pants. It had been years since these dreams had haunted her. Sure, she had dreamed since then, but not like this. Not the dreams where she smelled an assailant's breath or woke up soaking wet, gasping for air. These dreams exhausted her, terrified her, even made her sick. When she was younger, she'd gone to a doctor who excused them as night terrors triggered by anxiety. He told her she needed to find ways to create stillness within each day, so her anxieties would not terrorize her at night. The last had happened at 14. In that instance, she found herself on an airplane plummeting from the sky filled with doomed passengers. As the lights flickered, the cabin, reeking of urine, grew smaller with each shriek and helpless sob. Riley awoke from that dream with a black eye, singed hair, and news that a plane heading from Atlanta to Los Angeles had crashed in the desert, leaving no survivors. After that, the dreams had ceased, until now, and this time he'd known she was there. She found a bench and sat, taking deep breaths, trying to calm down. I had a nightmare or a daydream. It doesn't mean anything. It can't mean anything. It's one thing for a plane to crash, but a man with a flaming sword and a tree made of precious gems and metals? That's not real. It doesn't exist. I've got too much going on, that's all. Still, something was off. A danger to the balance of humanity? What does that even mean? Her mind flashed back to the men on the cliff and the bruises on her body. 8 years ago, she had dreamed of the chaos on the doomed flight, but she'd woken in her own head with only traces of the experience on her body. This was different. She was no longer just a bystander, but the protagonist of the story, a story she wanted no part of. Skip ahead just a little bit. I've got another short piece from another chapter that ties into that I want to read for you guys. So that was at her last final. Now we've skipped ahead a little bit, and Riley is at her graduation after that vision, and she kind of has a tie into what she's just witnessed. The auditorium blazed with excited chatter and the bright flashes of hundreds of cameras held by an equal number of thrilled parents. Some rejoiced at the money they would save, others that their borderline failing students could now boast a hard-earned bachelor's degree. Riley waded through the festive crowd toward her family. a diploma tube held aloft in her right hand, the left clutching her graduation cap, its two-tone tassel bouncing with each step. They were all there, waiting to congratulate her on a job well done. Coulter Dale, her tall, good-humored father, Sylvia, her petite, incisive mother, Kirsten, her beautiful, successful older sister, and Esther Miller, her timid maternal grandmother. "Yo, Riley," her dad shouted as she walked up. "You did it, hun. We are so proud of you." Riley twirled in her black graduation gown and gave a small curtsy. "I did well, no?" "Congrats, little sis. How does it feel?" Kirsten wrapped Riley in a hug. Her sister was tall and slender, with green eyes that matched Riley's and large blonde curls that softened her angular face. "Actually really good," Riley squeezed back. "I can't believe I'm finished." "And now you get to move back in with Mom and Dad," her mom joked, giving a double thumbs up. Riley gave an exasperated smile but secretly felt relieved. She hoped to find out what was happening and how to make it stop while she still had the support of her family. She dreaded the thought of blacking out again alone in an apartment in Denver, or even worse, at a new job where no one knew her. "You don't have to rub it in." She made a pouty face, playing the part. Riley made her way to her grandmother and gave her a hug. "Thanks for coming, Grandma. I hope it wasn't too long and boring." Esther held her purse tightly as she always did. "Oh no, we're all very proud of you, Riley." Her voice carried a slight accent. "She's not going to steal your purse, Esther," Riley's dad joked. "You can relax." Esther's thin lips parted in a tiny laugh as she squeezed Riley's hand. So proud. They locked matching green eyes, and Riley thought she noticed an extra sparkle of fear glinting in their depths. "I don't know about y'all, but I need to eat, and we need to get moving if we want to beat this crowd to the restaurants." Her father motioned with his hands for them to hurry up. "Think about what you want, graduation girl." Riley held her grandmother's hand as they walked to the car. Esther's small frame and thin white curls kept pace with her granddaughter. Riley had always heard she looked like Esther, but never saw it. Today, Riley just saw a frail old woman with a face that had seen too much, next to an able young woman who hadn't seen enough. And that was just the eyes that gave away their relation. They fell behind the rest of her family in the massive arena parking lot. Esther grasped her hand tighter. The antique ring she always wore pressed into Riley's flesh. It was an age-old ring, a tarnished metal band with the design of a snake-like maze, forming trunks that branched out into the spiral leaves of two elaborate trees. One tree was gold with a delicate egg-shaped ruby fastened to the center of its trunk. The other was silver, its twisted hair-like branches decorated with tiny blue sapphires. She had never seen her grandma without it. The trees. Riley glanced down at her grandmother's ring, recoiling at the image branded into the metal. She had seen this image recently, but had not connected it to the heirloom. Sand, wind, and fire flashed across her mind. "Grandma, where did you get that?" "You've always worn it, but I've never asked." Esther glanced at the ring, her eyes growing uneasy. Riley noticed the change and saw the walls fly up. "It was a gift," Esther smiled, as if nothing had happened. "From my grandmother, who received it from her grandmother, and so on. It has been in our family for a very long time." "And the trees," Riley pointed at the design. "That tree, the silver one. It exists, doesn't it? Where is it?" Esther cringed. "It's just an image, just a design like they put on all jewelry." "But what tree is it based on, Grandma? They aren't just random trees, are they?" Her grandmother shut down like a scolded child.